You are now listening to the podcast for geeks and the stuff they love, where each week we'll talk about everything from anime to movies, games, and prop collecting with the people who create and love it. I'm Jeremy.
I'm India.
And I'm Martyn.
And this is your Geek Fix. So, tell me, we've been talking a little bit about game creation and animation and things like that, but when you think of retro gaming, or even current gaming, what are some of the things that you use to play, and what do you like to play most?
I mean, Martyn's will be more fascinating. I think mine are very generic in that, apart from maybe I think it was either my dad's or my uncle's. There was the caveman. What company was it? Tony? No, Tommy. It was like a caveman.
Oh, the Tommy.
Tommy.
Yeah.
It was like a caveman portable one game. You know.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with that thing. I had an Amiga, which I loved to pieces.
Yeah.
And then my Virtual Boy and my very, very old Game Boy.
Did you? We talked about the Virtual Boy last time I talked to you. Did you get it from, or is it still back home?
It's still at Martyn's. It's in Martyn's mum's attic.
Oh, it is.
awaiting to come over here one day.
So your vision can be made worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Destroy your vision.
It's definitely the reason I have to wear glasses. Like, I don't think my mum or dad had to wear glasses for a while. So
yeah. that red text and things.
Yeah,
and
I can still see it.
Your eyeballs.
I still have Nintendo on everything.
Did you select? So at the beginning of each game, it would give you the opportunity to select whether or not you wanted it to be able to pause, basically.
Yeah. So I would press yes, but when the auto pause would come up, I would just skip it.
You're like, keep playing.
I want to keep playing this Mario Tennis. Get out of my way.
I don't care about the nausea.
Yeah. Well, that's the one too where you had to just like stick your head into it and you were stuck.
Yes.
In that position. Yes. Somebody's recently modded that so that you can actually wear it
on
your face. Yeah, but still.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So much of early VR was based around. Well, it wasn't based around, but it was directly connected with the idea that you were probably going to be sick if you did this for too long.
Oh yeah.
Those big bulky VR headsets that I think your dad didn't have a particular.
Oh yeah, we went to there's a place, or it was a place in London called the Trocadero, and you go and it's all like games.
Uh-huh.
And there was like a virtual reality, I can't remember what the actual game was, but it's like, you sit in the chair and there's a headset and stuff. And I don't know, I was like 10 or something. I made my dad go on it and it gave him the biggest migraine.
Oh, yeah.
Really bad.
the early days.
Really fun. Yeah.
I remember some of those. Mm-hmm. The super blurry ones, because it was just a monitor that was mirrored in.
Like,
yeah.
Two CRT monitors or not even, just sat on a.
I remember it being really big because I was too small, so I had to hold it as well. So, but yeah. Oh, and then PlayStation 1 was like my staple. But they were my main. Yeah.
That's cool. The problem with VR, I didn't talk about this before, and also with sometimes 3D animating or doing a lot of creation work that I was going to ask you about before. They call it creation brain, but I think the same thing happens when you're too much in those kind of like Virtual Boy kind of situations for a while, and then you move out of it, that you see everything that way. Like if you do the 3D modeling, there's a point in time where you'll walk around in the real world and you'll be breaking down in your brain the basic shapes that everything is made up of. Like, have you ever had that?
There's a game. It happens a lot through work, but there's a game called The Witness that came out not too long ago where you have to look for these individual little patterns, and they're all scattered around the world, and some of them are just on walls, but then they're actually in the world and in the space. And I was playing that for about 2 weeks, and then I remember like leaving the house. I wasn't just playing it for 2 weeks, did other things, but I remember like going out and everywhere I looked was that.
Right.
Well, I was just seeing how I'd complete that shape on the wall and the harbour over there and the way the boat.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I had that a bit with the painting in VR. I remember I was sat painting some, like, can't remember, a desert island or something, and I was painting it, and then I took it off, and I just realised like everything was so inside was so vivid, and then you take it off, and everything looks so dull.
Oh, this is the
so,
real world.
Yeah.
I'm outside the Matrix.
Yeah. I was like, oh.
I want to be in that world.
Yeah.
There's a new Netflix show that I wouldn't recommend, but at the same time, it takes place in Canada, and they come over to the U.S., and there's a rumor that the U.S. is in high definition and Canada isn't, and they literally filmed it that way too. So then when they come into the U.S., they're like, "Oh, look, everything's so bright and whatever."
The sun's out.
Yeah.
That's funny.
There's a guy, a very, very talented writer called Armando Iannucci, and he wrote Veep, and he wrote In the Thick of It, and Death of Stalin. Like he's a very, very talented, and he used to have a comedy show on BBC TV, and one of his bits, he's talking about the difference between, because he's Scottish, he said the difference between Scottish and English TV, and he said you'd have the announcement on the English TV, and it'd say, so it's 9 o'clock, and we're now going to go over to the Prince and Michael Jackson party zone, but for our viewers in Scotland, here is a reading of some poetry. And he said he'd always be deathly jealous of everybody in England and all their fun TV, and in Scotland they'd have to watch all this miserable stuff.
That's pretty good.
We really got into, for a period of time, we really got into Stardew Valley as like a kind of like a thing, like an unwinding thing. Like it is like there's something very therapeutic and calming about it it's this 2D sprite based environment, and it's all very lovely, and there's a farm, and you've got to plant things, and you're making friendships, and because you can like do it between you can kind of, you end up doing the jobs that you prefer to do. So India's like looking after the farm, and I'm going and hitting monsters in the mine. And
I'm petting the cows or whatever.
You're petting the cows.
Pigs, sorry.
Pigs, yeah.
But I think the thing I find with that game, it's so vast, is that one person made it, wrote the music.
Wow, really?
Everything, yeah, it's crazy.
There's benefit of the sprite-based kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also somebody who's, I guess, passionate about making a thing, and yeah, that stuff. Those I think those things we found that if it's, especially during the pandemic when going out wasn't always necessarily an option, like going out the door wasn't necessarily an option. It was nice to have like things that were like, that offered some genuine escapism, like where you felt like it wasn't like I've always really enjoyed like the Dark Souls, Elden Ring, these kind of hyper tough, very fantastical adventures that are like also utterly miserable because they don't hold your hand, for one, and you have to discover things, and you're
and I'm like the complete opposite.
You're probably going to die a lot, and it's probably going to be a lot of swearing and frustration because it's just so difficult. And I don't know if I would have enjoyed a game like that during the pandemic. I think I wanted to just have fun and just kind of now, and not necessarily the pandemic is over, but I think because we are going outside more, and we are, like, I recently was playing Elden Ring, and I think it's just maybe one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had.
There isn't there a setting on that one though for difficulty?
Maybe, I'm not sure. There is. I mean, you can invite other people in to help you and do the stuff for you, which is, there was actually recently there's one boss in that game that's maybe the hardest boss in any of those games, and I think she's called Michaela or something, and she's insanely hard. Like, I went in and I tried to beat her like 10 times and just died on the first hit every time. Like, it was step into the arena and die. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And so, but there's a guy who made a character called Let Me Solo Her, and so his whole shtick was, you could, when you bring somebody into your game to help you, you can see their username, and so when you bring him in, his whole thing was that he was so good at fighting her that you were supposed to just sit down and let him do it for you, and he became super popular on Reddit and on internet forums for this guy who's basically helping everybody beat this really hard boss. And there's been like fan art created about him, and there's like websites where he's got like this whole mythology about him, and then he appeared and started explaining his own kind of process and everything. But I love that idea that I think we enjoy doing things that involve a bit of collaboration and exploration between us.
Yeah, most of my go-to games are very uncommitting, very like mini games. Tetris, it's I find the longer form stuff sometimes a bit hard to not connect with, but just to I guess remember where I was. I almost need like previously on.
Yeah.
You were doing this.
Yeah.
India, what's the thing that you've done in video games? What's the thing that you would say you've done the most of? Like, which part of a video game have you done the most of, would you say? Work-wise.
Skipping? Oh.
No, work-wise.
Skipping the skipping all the scenes? No.
Yeah.
Work-wise.
Would you say it would maybe be cutscenes? Like you've done a good amount.
I see. Yeah.
Transitions too. I've
Yes.
seen some of your transitions.
Yeah.
And India, what would you say would be the bit that you skip past the most in video games?
All the things that I did.
We've probably worked on. It's funny with video games because you, like I've been thinking about this recently, helping out a friend on a project, and there's something that like if you're in a cinema or you're sitting down and you're watching a movie, there's an exclusivity to your mindset. You're giving yourself over to the show to allow it to take you to where it wants to take you. Whereas with a video game, you almost kind of you want to hit the thing, or you want to climb the thing, or you want to explore the thing, and having a lengthy cutscene, unless it's the most wonderful thing in the world, almost takes you out of the experience. I much prefer narrative. Like if they're going to put a narrative in a game, to include it in my movement around it, in my time with it. And I think India, you definitely struggle with that a lot when it's like, especially when there's an unskippable cutscene. You're like, come on.
The trouble is, and then you get in the game, and I'm like, what am I meant to do? And you're like, well, you should have listened, India.
Well, you play the old Game Boy stuff, or a lot of the older games is true, but even the newer ones, like I get that I need to talk to this elf. But do I really want to hear the whole I mean, even if there was something important in there, like, click, 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 click. There's got to click. There's going to be eventually a point where there's not going to be, especially when you have to read it. It's like, why am I reading? That's why I'm playing this. I want to get around that.
I'm so bad at reading any documentation in a game. Like there was a game that I played recently that I absolutely loved, but it had a bunch of these kind of little like PDAs that you had to read as you were going around, and I didn't read a single one of them because I just wanted to play the game. And if I'm having fun playing the game, I don't like. If I'm a film snob. If I want a good story, I'll go and watch a Fellini movie, or and if I'm playing a video game, I want to have fun, and you spending 20 minutes explaining exposition to me is not fun. Sorry.
Right.
So I know you've spent a lot of time on it, and I'm sure a lot of people love that, but for me, it's just like they're separate things.
Oh yeah, I think, I mean, like the cutscenes and stuff. Online, you can go and you can watch all the cutscenes like stuck together, like a film.
Yeah.
And then you can go play the game because it's pretty and all. But I saw it when I went to buy the game, and now I just want to get into the play and stuff. So it is too bad. It's kind of funny.
And it's even worse because we literally know how long those things take to make.
Well,
so you think we'd have more reverence for them, but
I get it.
Time
I totally
is precious.
get that. Yeah, it's true. Do you have anything that's, you mentioned Steam, and I got to be careful too about what I say sometimes, but at the same time, so Steam has released, their own console. Essentially, it's really a handheld computer.
Yes.
It's funny you should bring that up.
Really?
I got my invite 3 days ago, and to buy one of the Steam Decks, their new handheld, the new handheld console, and I sat there agonizing over it for a couple of days. Like, do I need this? Can I justify spending this much money on a thing? Because we're not really going anywhere, and if we do, I have a laptop, so I was like, oh, can I do it? Should I do it? And I said no, and I sent it back, and I got my refund, and so I'm not getting a Steam Deck, but I was close. And one day, it's there in the future for me, but it's just not time.
I was one of the first people to put down $5 just in case.
Yeah.
And it's money. I don't think I can get it back. I thought that there was something where you could actually use it toward Steam Bucks or something.
It got sent back into my Steam wallet.
Did it?
So,
I'll have to check mine. But yeah, I mean, I put it in there just in case. But until people are, I have purchased the first version of everything. Like I owned all the Oculuses or Oculi or whatever you want to call them, and Meta, whatever they're calling it now. But and at least those are around for a little while. My favorite console, which I still have it right here, is still the PSP.
Oh, nice.
And the reason is because I mean, for almost 20, I mean, I could play this and it works great. But I mean, like for 20 years, it was still, actually viable and usable and things. I mean, you didn't have to buy anything new. It ran all the games. It did, all that stuff. But yeah, it's hard because that's one of the benefits to retro gaming is you already know what you're getting and you know what you can play on it. So.
Well, I got a for my writing, I went through this really weird process of like, what's the best way that I enjoy to do writing, and like for me the least steps of friction to get something done is by far the best. Like I know there are people who will fight tooth and claw just to get something done. But for me, if there are barriers, then those barriers are going to throw me off straight away. So I went through a process. Like I tried using a tablet to write on, and I tried doing it on my computer where I'm working all day, and that was a terrible idea. And so in the end, I ended up getting a Mac and a MacBook Air.
I thought you were going to say a typewriter.
A typewriter. Yeah. There's a guy who's like an Oscar-winning screenplay writer, and he still uses an IBM PC, DOS PC from the early 80s.
And all of production hate him because he used to like print it all out.
Scan in his computer. Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, so I got this Mac, and it's my first Mac product. I've never been a Mac person, but because I can't install games on it, because I can't do all these other things that I can do with my Windows PC, and because it's just a 8 gig MacBook Air,
no distraction,
perfect for writing. But I have discovered that I can stream my computer to it with Steam. So it's kind of
it's becoming that.
It's still that was
you got to restrict it a little bit.
Yeah, I think I need to put a few baby locks on it.
That's the downside to the way some of the games, like what India was describing, those quick and dirty closure, which I like that too. Because if I just I want something that's also really gonna fulfill my senses in the moment. Then like a quick game that does that and that holds my attention and then it's over is great. But I also love, like when I have the time, those world building kinds of games. Like I don't know. I used to do all the roller coaster games and stuff like that too.
Oh yeah.
India likes those.
Yeah.
What are you playing at the moment, India?
I haven't opened it for a bit, but what is it? You basically build a zoo.
Oh.
Is it Zoo Tycoon? No, Zoo. I can't remember.
Tycoon?
No. Yeah, maybe Zoo Tycoon.
So that was like there's a combo pack that I used to play that had you had like the zoo, there was a water park, and then there was the roller coaster Tycoon. And then they had the one where it combined it so you could do them all and stuff. I don't know why. That's just so. There's something. Again, it's kind of relaxing, but it's also like, look, I'm inside my world. And then you could hit the functions because there's like a key. You could type in, I forget the guy's name, and then you'd have the perspective of the character, and then you just walk around. Yeah, I used to love that.
Oh yeah.
There's also 2 Point Hospital as well. I like that.
Oh.
You build a little hospital, and then people have these really bizarre illnesses and diseases.
That's
and
funny.
Stuff.
It's kind of like the airport ones too, where you have all the flights that come in, and you have to deal with all the problems from the customers.
Yeah.
Stuff. Although there comes to be a point where it sounds too much like work to me.
There's like the games where you can like mow lawns or
the house flipper.
House flipper. We tried that one for a bit. Yeah, that's.
Oh, there's one right now that is that the one where you also destroy? There's one where you actually destroy a house.
Oh yeah, we played.
You played that one.
Yes, I can't
Repo
remember what it is.
or something.
It's really that's all voxel
Yeah.
graphics, so they're all like these. Everything's like a brick that can be destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I liked there was Moving Out, I think, as well, where you basically chuck all of their furniture in a truck. It's pretty fun.
That's kind of like Tetris then.
Yeah, basically like
Like
there's
real
no
life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
it's
that kind of stuff.
it's interesting because I remember a lot of my my formative gaming stuff happened on the ZX Spectrum, which was tape based, which you put the tape in and it sounds like a modem collecting and it's the screeching howl of doom, but it's exciting to me as a child because there's something coming out the other end, and these things would take like 20 minutes to load sometimes as they were loading the data into memory, but it's interesting how the fantasy of that sits in my brain. Like these games just look so amazing and so like captivating, and that you're getting lost in these world, and then you pull them up now and you have a look at them, you're like, oh wow, that's really what it looked like. That's incredible. Like the way that
Wow, there's 1 pixel. What?
yeah.
Well, I mentioned this on this channel before, but when I was a kid, like the Atari games, there was a tennis one, and it had a ball, and then there was a square, a green square.
Oh yeah.
And then there was a black square, and the squares would meet. So it was a shadow, right, that followed it. So there's 2 squares, and then there was these square blocky people that played the tennis. And I remember thinking back then, wow, this is really good graphics. And now you look back at that as like, and also the speed, like the fact that we struggled to play it at the time. It's like, man, this is so hard. It takes hours to get it down. And now if you go back and you play it, it's like, it's been overtrained on it.
Sorry, go on, Andy.
I was gonna say recently I got the I don't know what we call it, the remakes, I guess, of Spyro, where they've remastered them, and I was playing it and I was like, this feels like what I thought it looked like.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, like
higher definition and all
that. It looks great, and this is how I almost don't want to Google how it did look like, because this is how it was in my mind's eye.
Yeah. The
There's
CRT too made it look better than it actually was too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually kind of broadly looked in at to building our own arcade cabinet at one point last year, and getting the pieces ourselves. But I think the thing is, if you're going to use a proper CRT, it needs to have so much like structural integrity to be able to hold those things.
Yeah. I built a cabinet that's downstairs, but I didn't go with the CRT for a couple of reasons. Yeah. One of them being, I mean, eventually the thing's going to break and you can't get rid of it anymore. It's like, what do you do with it afterwards?
Like, you definitely don't want to leave it by the side of the road.
Yeah. It's a real trick. Plus, I mean, those things put out radiation that I never knew before. Until recently.
That's not good. Yeah, I mean, just to get like a regular like 30-inch like flat screen monitor or television, you can probably get for under $100 now. Like it's not like a. Whereas a CRT is probably going to cost you more. Now.
My wife went and bought a plasma. Some guy was selling an old plasma TV, a giant one. I mean, huge. And the thing weighs like literally almost a ton. And she got it back here, and I think she was really proud of herself for getting it because it was cheap too. Yeah. But it's and I remember plasma was supposed to be higher definition than like the LCD, but you can't make anything out on it and stuff. Now you got this giant TV I can't get rid of. It's just sitting in there. Because again, plasma, you have to take it somewhere and pay somebody to get rid of it. So
oh wow,
I don't know.
That's crazy. There's
good.
Probably not an awful lot of useful parts in there as well, I'd imagine.
No, and you probably wouldn't want to touch them. But
the first console I ever had, there was a few. My parents were very exclusively. You can have a computer, but it's got to be like you can use it to like do a bit of programming. You can learn stuff on it, but then you can also play games. And it was never like. You're not allowed a console because they're bad for you. The first console we had, I remember, I would have been maybe 10, 11, thereabouts, maybe a bit older, and it was a thing made by a company in the UK called Amstrad, and they were kind of like a competitor to Commodore.
I was gonna say it sounds like a Commodore VIC-20 or something.
They had it was my very first PC. I think it was, I want to say it was maybe Windows 3.1, but it might have just been MS-DOS. but it was called the Amstrad Mega PC, and so it was a Windows PC and a Mega Drive in one, and it had this plastic cover on the front, and when you slid it to one side, it went to the Mega Drive mode, and when you slid it the other way, it went to the Windows mode, and the signal would go through to the monitor. And so what that then meant is that
It's
you
like
would have
retro dual
exactly.
booting.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I think it shut down the one side when you went to the other side. So if you were like doing something on the Windows side, you just kill it like straight away. But because it was going through to a computer monitor, it meant that the Mega Drive was like so much crisper than it was whenever I'd see it at any of my friends' houses on their regular TVs. So I was always like, I mean, it wasn't a big monitor, but it was always like so exciting that I had a Mega Drive and it was like sharper than everybody else's.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing how much how important like fidelity has always been. I kind of feel like that's gone for me now. Like I don't know if I like if I see 4K streams for most things, like maybe sports and a few exceptions, like it loses some tactile feeling to it. It's so crisp and so sharp that I think for me personally, I think I've reached the limit of where I want things to be. Just leave them here. We're fine. We don't need to go any further. We've invented everything we need.
Right. I heard that when you guys go to stores where they have TVs and things, you're turning off the TV smoothing.
Oh, I hate it so much.
Yeah.
I hate
smoothing. But if someone has it on their TV in their house and they go out the room, he'll turn it off.
You don't get to have this anymore.
It ruins movies. It makes them look strange and
well, it's this.
It's like creepy.
It's interpolating between hard frames, so it's not like there's no clever in betweens. It's not doing a computer calculation. It's just going, this hand is here, this hand is here, so that means that I'm going to stick a frame exactly in the middle, and that means that nothing. There's so
no
much
like it takes out the acceleration deceleration of anyone's like movements.
So just a smooth like soapy mess of just everything looks like a soap opera.
Well, I mean, when they used to film, and I want to ask you more in this next episode for the last one for the month, but ask you about film. But they used to take frames out to be able to give it a certain view or certain perspective on the screen, and throw grain in. Even there was an eventual point where they were putting some grain in for that purpose and stuff. So when you have something that then removes it, I mean, that's what a movie is for me. Is there's a little bit of grain, there's a little, there's a frame rate difference that makes it look different than everything else in real life. So when you get something that's trying to correct that, it's just feels wrong. It's just
those people made a creative choice for however that film or footage looks.
Yeah.
And then the TVs are just like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll clean this up for you.
Yeah. Exactly.
We got a projector during the pandemic because going to the cinema was one of our favorite things, and we dearly missed it. And so one of the things that I was quite keen to pick on a projector was that it was as dumb as possible. That it had no smart features, nothing. It doesn't connect to the internet, and it also doesn't do it. It treats the footage correctly. Yeah. And we got that, and I love it, and it's amazing, and it does a fantastic job. It's only 1080p, and it still looks super sharp, and it's amazing. But I feel like in the future, if we ever upgrade, it's inescapable. It will absolutely will have some built-in smart features, and will make everybody look like they're made out of Play-Doh. And
that's awesome. Join us next time as we talk about some of the movies that you guys are watching. I especially have some questions, some B-movie questions for you. So hang in there for that. If you've enjoyed this podcast and want more, stay tuned for that. But also check out our channel. Join the community on YouTube that goes by the same name, Your Geek Fix. Also check out India. What's your handle over at?
It's Indie Pops. So it's INDI_POPS.
And then you can also use that as a way to write something to Martyn if you want. So
just go through my secretary. She'll filter you.
Excuse me.
I'm sleeping on the couch tonight.
We'd also love for you to be part of this podcast as well. So please send your questions and stories to yourgeekfix@gmail.com. And in the meantime, this has been your Geek Fix.